Hello everyone, I'm Mark Sain and welcome to Sain Investment Solutions. Please take a moment to pause this video and review the following disclaimer. Thank you for that. Welcome to week 35 of the Forex market review. Today we're going to look at three USD currency pairs and just to see where they're going and what may be occurring in the news. The first thing we'll do this week is we'll take a look at the daily FX news and we'll go ahead and go there right now. So here we are on the daily FX news. So you can go to the website at www.dailyfx/calendar and this will pop up here. What I like to do is then click on the current time, filter on your local GMT time, which is +10 here in Eastern States, Australia. And then I click on the filter button and I really just like to know all the high and medium news. So I remove all the low importance news. And if you don't want any specific country, then you just go ahead and untick those as well. Then we go ahead and we look at the news and we see what's coming up and what's looking at coming up to see how it may affect the market. So as you can see, we've got a bunch of news which have occurred on Monday and Tuesday. And as we move down and we look at some of our pairs, one of the news we'll look at is the Euro-German CPI news came in. That came in at worse than expected at 0.4%. So they're expecting 0.5, but it came in at 0.4. So based on that, we would expect the euro to weaken further. And then following that, a couple hours later, was the USD consumer confidence numbers. They were expecting a 97 and it came in at 101.1. Therefore, we would expect a better than expected number. So the US dollar should then strengthen further. So with the pairs we are looking at, we should see them all decline further as the US dollar strengthened and then the euro pair falling as well as that weakened on that news. Coming up on Wednesday today, we have some other news. We have German unemployment numbers, so that's definitely going to move the Eurozone unemployment and CPI numbers. So all these are high important numbers which will move the euro either up or down. Canadian GDP numbers coming out if you're following the Canadian dollar. And throughout the day through to Thursday, we have China's numbers. So this is going to affect the Aussie pair. So some better than expected numbers, you'll see the Aussie strengthen, worse than expected, you'll see it decline. US job number claims, as well as on Friday with the most important non-farm payroll numbers. So with Yellen speaking last week, advising that they're very likely they may be increasing interest rates if all the economic data keeps coming out positive. Well, we had the US consumer confidence, that was positive. If we see another non-farm payroll number better than 180K, so we'll see the US dollar definitely strengthen. And if we see a reduced unemployment rate, then that's going to be even better. So these some great numbers to look out for, and this will definitely give us a direction of which way the markets are going to flow. So once you roughly have an idea of what's coming up, you can have an assumption of where to place your trades and what you may want to do. So based on a technical entry, we're looking at the Euro USD starting on the daily time frame. Can't really see any major moves. We do see that stepping up with some divergence, and then we're seeing it stepping down. So we're sort of in a sideways patterns at the moment. But at the moment, we see the stochastic way oversold. So we're probably looking for a little bit of a bounce here around the 200 EMA line. Dropping down to the 4-hour chart, looking at price. So here we see the higher high in price. I'll just go ahead and draw that in. And we see our lower AO. Now the AO wasn't as low as I would like, but at the moment it is showing divergence, and then we're seeing this move down. Based on a Twitter announcement a couple of days ago, I indicated looking for a pullback. So here we looked at A, B, C, down for 1, up for 2, down for 3. Now that's on the 1-hour chart, we're seeing the same thing. Down for 1, up for 2, down for 3. And we're looking at roughly on the wave 3 seeing this low down here, seeing the first largest AO would come back to the zero line and looking for a pushback higher. However, it hasn't come back to the zero line just yet, so we've still got to continue to drag this Fibonacci retracement tool down until we see it come back to zero line and start making its way up. So I'm thinking it's got to still make its way back higher. I'm liking it. It's probably going to come up, not in this exact format, but you're going to see pretty much an ABC movement all the way back higher. And we're probably going to see resistance somewhere between this 38.2 and 50%. Now, if we look left, we can see support and resistance levels around these levels here. We have our DSR indicator here, which is this red box, showing some resistance area as well. But if you look left, you can just see where it's bounced a few times. So somewhere within this band is very likely we're going to see the pullback. And then when you get the confirmation to sell it, that's when you want to sell it. We also have this falling 200 EMA on the 1 hour chart, so that's going to act as some resistance as well. And on the 4 hour chart, yeah, that's probably going to be some resistance there. That's why I think the first place is going to hit around there, have a bit of a pullback, and then a push back higher. But depending on your trading plan rules, mine, I'd like to see it come back to at least 38.2 before I even consider the trade. So obviously, if it doesn't even get there, I will just cancel this trade moving forward. Based on the news that we had on the euro, it was about here. We started to see it move up. Then we saw the euro German CPI numbers worse than expected, so that fell. And then it stabilized, and then we saw the USD consumer confidence numbers come out better than expected. So with the US strengthening, the euro would weaken, and again it fell even further. So that's why we're seeing this recent move down here based on those news announcements. Jumping across to the next chart is the New Zealand USD. Here on the daily chart we have a large AO, which is 3, back for 4, up for 5. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the daily chart we have our divergence with a higher high in price and our lower AO. We then drop down to the 4 hour chart. We then see the same thing, divergence. We can see on that same pattern here, higher high in price as the AO is stepping down. So there's our divergence along there. And then we drop down to the 1 hour chart and we had divergence with a higher high in price and a lower AO. So to me, I've got divergence on the daily, the 4 hour and the 1 hour time frames. So I'm definitely happy with this trade based on divergence. So now what we're looking for is some type of pullback. So normally you would see this large AO down the bottom on the 1 hour chart. We see it move down, we start to see it pull back higher. We would drop in our Fibonacci retracement tool. We don't know roughly where 1 and 2 is. There's nothing identified in this movement here, so we just put it at the top. Down to the bottom, we want to see pull back to a minimum of 38.2. It never came there as the AO came back to zero line, and then it stepped back lower. So now we're starting to see divergence on the 1 hour chart. So we're seeing a lower low in price with the higher AO. So to me, it looks like it could possibly want to move back higher. Looking left, if I just drop this tool in here around about there, we can see it's bounced a numerous amount of times around this level here. So somewhere around here, I believe it's going to find some support and push back higher. Where can it go to? Well, at the moment we've also got the 4 hour 200 EMA line, so that's bouncing off that, which is another indicator it's going higher. So what I would like to do is see this whole movement push back higher, and I'd be looking at this as a possible, probably I'd say a wave 2 coming back, I'd guess, because it's such a small AO. I'd like to see something larger than that for it to be wave 3. So if that is the case, we're probably going to see it push back pretty high, and you might see it push back somewhere up until these regions up here around the 61.8%. Why do I think that? Well, looking left and this DSR resistance areas, we can see where it's bounced numerous amount of times. So somewhere within this DSR band is where it's likely to pull back to. And that's where we're going to keep an eye on the trade and then look at it pushing back lower. By all means, you can still look at it on the 1 hour chart, look at it to pull back up into these levels as well, and then push back lower. But yeah, roughly around these 50 to 61.8 is the area I would be looking at wanting to sell it, ready for its next push back lower. Let me go ahead and delete some of these indicators for you, just so we can make it a little bit more clear. If it does pull back, we then use our Fibonacci expansion tool, where we take the recent high to the recent lows and back up to the recent highs. So if it comes up to these levels somewhere around here, therefore we expect it to pull back first to this 61.8 Fibonacci expansion level through to the 100 or the 127. So if we were to zoom out, we'll go to the 4 hour chart just to see where that lines up. Looking left around about here, we're going to have some resistance. That's going to be about the 127 mark. So definitely I'd be looking at roughly around these two areas of possible exit. Now if you got in around here and you'll manage to put your stop losses around at least 50 pips to probably 100 pips, I would like. You can look at making 100 to this first level and another 170 to 225 down to these levels. So you can easily make a good 1 to 2 to maybe 1 to 3 risk to reward, depending on how you want to push it, whether or not you want a really tight stop loss up at these levels here, or whether or not you want to be a bit more conservative and have it up at these highs. That's roughly where I would want to be looking myself. The last pair I want to look at is the USD yen. Here we see it's moved down lower. We don't have divergence, even though we see this large AO and another small AO. It's not divergence because we don't have a lower low end price. That's a higher low. So we really need it to step one more back lower. Will it do that? I don't think so. So with the US dollar probably strengthening, what I'm looking for now is a possible move higher. The 4 hour chart gives me divergence, lower low end price with the higher AO. So that's a good indicator. We're seeing it push through this 4 hour 200 EMA line. So I would expect to see it roughly pull back to that support level initially. Looking left, we have some resistance around about these levels here, where you can see it's bounced a few times. So it's very likely it could pause at that level there. On the 1 hour chart, we're starting to see divergence moving higher, high in price, and our lower AO. So it's very likely it could be slowing down. It may have one more push higher. Dropping down to the 15-minute chart, you can even look at. Here we have that same divergence on that same time frame. So what we think we're going to do, well, grab our Fibonacci retracement tool. We're expecting to pull back to at least the minimum 38.2 to the 50% mark. Looking left, drop back to the 4 hour chart, draw some trend lines in. Here, if it pulls back definitely around to those levels there, we could look at finding some resistance or some support areas, and probably about there. So pulling back down into this 51% area would probably be a likely area to go long. You could be looking at risking about 100 to 200 pips and trying to make at least 150 to 300 pips back up into these highs up here and push back all the way possibly up to these highs there. So thank you for that. That was week 35 of the Forex market review. By all means, please pause this video, rewind it, review it, and make your own judgment calls. These are only some of my recommendations where I think it's going to go. I think the US is going to strengthen, so I'm looking for some pullback opportunities. Thank you. Bye-bye.